What I've come to realize is that most people don't want to struggle with things. I know that sounds like it's really weird for me to say that, but I think almost all of the growth that you will get from doing good stuff, doing good real world things is by struggling with something for a long time. And what ends up happening is that most people will try something and they'll look at it briefly and then they'll say it's too much work and I don't want to do that thing. And then they'll go pursue something else and do something that seemingly seems more interesting, more simpler at the beginning. But what we don't realize is that almost all of the growth that you are going to get is by struggling with something that is challenging and doesn't quite make sense. And I know that is a difficult thing for everybody to hear on the other end, but you really have to reflect on who you are. And it was really interesting. The reason why I actually know this is when I was in my undergrad program, this is this first moment, and I was like, okay. When I was doing my undergrad program, what I realized was everybody was choosing courses that were the easiest and got the best grades that were outside of their core courses. And I was a weird nut because I would always choose the hardest courses to add and to augment. I chose like things like the theory of sociology, abstract, very difficult things to think about. And it always puzzled me and why people chose these at the time. It puzzled me. It was like, why are people choosing these easy things that just, add a grade and then they could get high grades? First of all, I didn't really understand legitimacy and status seeking dynamics at the time. It wasn't clear to me. Now, I've read a lot about that, so I understand it. Um, but at the same time, I always thought when I was pursuing these things that the struggle always provided more insight. Doing the thing that was more difficult was always more interesting to me. But I think it's very different from what everybody else does. Right? They see hard things and they shy away from it. At Christmas time, for example, um, my kids, I mean, I love them, but they're like normal people, just like everybody else. Um, my kids got a puzzle and nobody wanted to do this puzzle. So I was this weird nut that sat and put this puzzle together that took hours and hours and hours of putting this puzzle together. It was a 3D puzzle. It's really cool. But um, it was weird, I think, and I don't know why that is the case, why I like struggles. I like doing things that are awkward. I don't know why. I think it's I think I'm just genetically wired in a different way. But when I see that and when I do those things, I always learn more. I always get more insight. Now, the problem is that it's incredibly slow. There's very little benefit for doing these hard things. In fact, there's often almost always a penalty associated with it. However, you might sort of look at that penalty, it might be less money, it might be less prestige, um, it might be more time. This took a long time to put this puzzle together. All of these things are just penalties that people face and they look at. But I think almost always, in order for you to get the maximal amount of growth, it's to look at puzzles and look at the world and look at those things that you would say, I can't do that because it's too hard, and to actually pursue it. And when somebody asks you, can you do this? this is going to be difficult, that you jump up and you say, I'm actually going to do this thing because I know it's actually going to allow me to grow. And even when you come across a puzzle that you can't fix, you can't do the thing that you're thinking about, you're really stuck at it, that you get really, really stuck. But that stuck allows you to see the world differently and allows you to eventually solve that. Now, I think that's what that's what drove me, I think, towards engineering, because I look at puzzles around me and I think, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we build this a better way? It's, the response almost always is like, that's too hard to do. That's too difficult to do. I'm not going to do that. But, from an engineering perspective and somebody that sort of loves to struggle at things, it's like, of course, let's pursue this thing. Let's figure it out. Right? If you were to look at people that have done very interesting, impactful things, they don't do a lot of them because it's just too damn hard. There's a lot that goes on, but they do things that really do change the world because they're hard. Right? I think about like Rosa Parks, for example, that sitting on a bus, standing up and sitting on a bus, standing up for something, that's hard to do. And that's a struggle. That's a mental struggle that you're going to face. Somebody like, Kenneth Dyson invented the Dyson vacuum, iterated god awful number of times on the vacuum because he thought he could make a better vacuum. I think about all these people that look at the world and they say, I'm going to do something that's difficult and it sucks. No pun intended to the Dyson vacuum, but it's not fun in the moment, but I'm going to pursue this thing because it's challenging and I'm up to this challenge. Now, as somebody like myself that loves challenges, loves like looking at the world and saying, if there's something that's difficult, that I'm going to stand up and I'm actually going to do this thing and I'm going to make it work come hell or high water. And it almost always does. Right? It's often if I say I'm going to do something, it's almost often that's the case. We sort of push through it. But at the same time, when I deal with other people, and I apologize to anybody that I deal with, and if you're listening to this, I do apologize. But when I deal with people that don't do that, and almost always in my heart, and I'm just saying it's just a natural thing that I deal with, I get frustrated. Because I know, because I've gone through all of this before, that the quickest route, yes, it's the quickest route to success. And yes, maybe in the eyes of the world that you look better, but in your heart, that's often not where you actually grow. It is in the painful, messy stuff that nobody wants to do that you actually grow. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.